All right, so welcome everyone to the Women in the Workforce webinar. We have a full program ahead and we look forward to digging into the conversation. But before we do, we would like to thank our partners who made this work possible. So to ITS America, and a special thank to the individuals directly involved with the planning process, including the coordination of the logistical details. Thank you so much. My name is Carla Diaz. I am a member of Women in ITE committee, and I'm very happy to be facilitating to you this Women in the Workforce webinar today. This webinar has been specifically designed as a new way of learning and developing that provides a supportive environment for women in the workforce. We are committed to building a more equitable and inclusive work culture where we can all feel confidence in our abilities, no matter what of your background. Women in the Workforce webinar's mission is to inspire and empower women to lead in the workplaces and communities. Let's look at the program we have prepared for you today. In this webinar, you will learn to develop the skills, confidence, and the connections needed to be successful in your career and in life. The Women in the Workforce program is all about supporting and celebrating women who work. The session will start with an introduction of our 4 panelists. Then we will learn more about our 4 strategically selected topics, which will lead to 4 concurrent breakout rooms for further discussions with our expert panel. At the end of the breakout sessions, we will have time for Q&A from all of you. So now let's meet our experts. First, we have Jean Banker. Jean has worked in public service and transportation policy for 30 years. At Mott McDonald's, she has been instrumental in growing the planning and advisory practices for the San Francisco and Oakland offices. For 10 years prior to that, she worked at the Port of Oakland in a variety of roles, and as principal assistant to the executive director, she performed firm-wide policies and program development, and led and coordinated the planning and implementation of strategic plans and special projects. At the port, she was also the deputy executive and director, active maritime director, and a manager of finance and administration for the maritime division. Jean was the project manager for the first port-related public-private partnership in the US that brought the port a $60 million upfront payment. Jean has also managed the capital budgeting and planning process for the maritime division and was successful in securing state and federal grant funds for important projects such as the comprehensive truck program, ship electrification, rail yards, and grade separations. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jean.
Thanks for having me, Carla.
Thank you. Next, we have Janet Walker-Ford. Janet is a nationally recognized transportation and industry executive with WSP USA, a leading engineering and professional services consultancy. Walker-Ford has more than 2 decades of diverse experience in technology, mobility, and transportation systems. She has served in an executive leadership capacity on programs and projects for large transit and transportation agencies across the US, including a public-private partnership with the Massachusetts Bay Area Transportation Agency and a multi-billion-dollar capacity enhancement program for the Philadelphia International Airport. Janet serves on numerous diverse boards, including as board chair of the American Public Transportation Foundation, is an executive committee and board member of the American Public Transportation Association, chair of the WTS International Foundation Board, and vice chair of the WTS International Board, and a member of the Jacksonville University Board of Trustees. Welcome, Janet.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Next, we have Karen Philbrick. Karen is the executive director of the Mineta Transportation Institute at San Jose State University, a position she has held since 2014. Prior to joining MTI, Dr. Philbrick shaped the field of transportation in a variety of roles, including Assistant Director of the National Center for Intermodal Transportation at the University of Denver. She has been appointed 3 times by the U.S. Secretary of Transportation to sit on the U.S. DOT Transit Advisory Committee for Safety. With an eye towards seamless and equitable transportation for all, Karen also serves the industry through the American Public Transportation Association. Committed to recruiting, retaining, and advancing women in the transportation industry, Dr. Philbrick also served on the Women in Transportation Seminar Foundation Board as secretary after having served 2 terms as a director. She contributes to her community through the Rotary Club of San Jose, where she has served as a board member and where she will be elevated to president on July 1st, 2023. Congratulations and welcome, Karen.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Monica Johns. Monica serves as the Chief Equity Officer at Central Ohio Transit Authority. In her role, Johns oversees the conception, design, implementation, growth, and evaluation of the organization's strategy surrounding equity, diversity, and inclusion. She also partners with leaders to develop and implement strategies, programs, policies, and metrics to attract, retain, and advance diversity within and outside of CODA. Prior to CODA, Jones had spent 2 decades in higher education in key leadership positions as Associate Dean of Students, Chief Diversity Officer, Director of Diversity for Regional Campuses, and Director of Student Services for both public and private institutions in Ohio and Kentucky. And we're very happy to have you here. Thank you, Monica, for being here.
Thanks so much, Carla. So glad to be here.
Thank you. Well, we have heard just a little piece of the amazing job that these women are doing, which is truly inspirational for all of us. Now we would love to hear from them directly. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to invite each of our experts to please tell us a little more about your topic based on a question that's specifically directed to the topic that they will be expanding on their breakout sessions. And you, as the audience, will have the opportunity to listen and decide the breakout session that you would like to join. Let's get started. So our first topic in group number 1 is succession planning. So Jean, typically succession planning is designed to help organizations recognize future leaders. There could be employees working in back office positions that have the potential or the skills to take on a higher position. So tell me, Jean, why is including women in succession planning a must?
Thanks, Carla. Including women is so important. First of all, we all know the future is female. the majority of the workforce very soon is already and in the future will be female. It is also very good for business continuity. The more women in leadership, the more you will have, the more role models equals more success stories. And anyone who has been leading a business already knows that if you're not including women in the leadership roles, you will not be successful as a business. It just won't work. It creates a sustainable business for the future.
Excellent. And if you would like to hear more about this topic, please join room number 1. So continue on to room number 2. The topic is deliberate retention policies. And here we have Janet. Janet, for several years, corporations have been struggling to attract and retain women in leadership roles. How do companies encourage women to climb the corporate ladder?
Thank you very much. Again, it's great to be here with everyone. You know, starting out with the succession planning piece is one of the keys to success. And so I totally agree. with the comments that my colleague on panel just made. We know as well that in today's tight labor market, oh my gosh, so very tight, the importance of employee retention strategies cannot be overstated, and they need to be proactive. Since a few employees, we know, leaving an organization can quickly lead to lost morale and unimaginable increases in already very heavy workloads that we all have. So it's essential to be proactive by implementing effective employee retention strategies, whether it be through compensation reviews, recognition programs, and opportunities for upskilling and reskilling. So we know that it's important, right? Succession planning and retention strategies. But let's delve a bit more quickly as part of my teaser into why it's so important. The impacts of employee turnover go far beyond temporary disruptions, as I just mentioned a few minutes ago with the increased workload. It's costly, for one. Replacing an employee costs roughly 1/3 of their annual salary, according to the Work Institute. As employees watch their colleagues leave, their workloads increase, and this can lead for them stress, frustration, and a downward spiral of departures. Frustrated and overworked employees are less likely to perform work at their peak. Retention starts way before an employee is considering leaving your organization. It starts with recruitment, and I like to call it the care and feeding all the way through that employee's life cycle with the company. So how are you bringing them into the company matters just as much as the retention strategies that we're using we're deploying to keep them there. The employees brought in, do they really feel like they belong? And we're going to specifically talk about women in our discussion, but is there a sense of belonging just because you've been offered a role or a title, you feel that you belong in the company? And then what's the plan for developing their careers? It's never too soon to be talking about succession planning, but career development strategies. From small business to major corporations, this great resignation that we keep talking about, it's real, and it continues to hit us all really hard. And despite the ravages of COVID-19, a record number of Americans quit their jobs last year, and that left about 10.4 million, probably in counting, jobs open. And interestingly, leading the pack were the mid-career employees. They were leading the exodus. So employees are leaving jobs for better ones, or at least perceived better ones. But as we still look at recovering from the pandemic, we know that more than 4 million women left the workplace altogether. So when we talk about employee retention, it's also important to directly connect with the employee recruitment strategy and the group of folks that you're losing the most, which happen to be women. So as closing in today's conversation, I'd like to dive into deliberate retention policies that address looking at employees' experience with the company from before they are even hired, and then how can we change as companies to support their workforce and the workforce needs of today. Thank you, and I look forward to our discussion.
Thank you. And I hear a common theme in here, being proactive in these two first topic. The decision for me is being really difficult to choose between these two breakout sessions. So let's hear from the third room. And in this room, we're going to talk about flexible work environments. And we have Karen Philbrick in this breakout room. So Karen, gender equality in the workplace remains a goal that is as yet unattained. How flexible work environments can offer a significant notch in the right direction and bring us closer to gender equality?
Carla, thank you for asking that critical question. While we've made great strides in terms of gender equity in the workplace, we have a long way to go. Women still bear the brunt of household tasks and childcare, and this makes them especially vulnerable in times of crisis. Just as we saw during the pandemic, when women were 1.8 times more likely to lose their jobs than men, almost twice as likely. Until these circumstances change, it's going to be especially important for women to be able to have workplace flexibility, to be able to adapt and fulfill goals and deadlines in their familial obligations and their professional lives. I think when we all joined this webinar, I heard the sweetest, most precious baby cooing, and I believe that was Stephanie Santana's child. And I just want to say, we're speaking to you and to all of us when we talk about the need for flexibility so that we can care for everybody in our lives across the span. Many industries, including transportation, have had trouble attracting and retaining women. In fact, the Mineta Transportation Institute conducted research that showed that women accounted for less than 15% of the total transportation workforce. Thank you to Principal Investigator Jody Godfrey, who I know is a participant today, for leading that incredible, meaningful research. It shows that to attract and retain women, organizations should take steps to diversify the perception of their industry, to better publicize the presence of women in the workplaces. As we heard from some other speakers, if you can't see it, you can't be it. We need to socially model what's possible within this industry. We need to connect with women early, and not just early in their careers, but early in their school years. We're talking K through 12 sector, as we heard from Janet. We need to have a flexible and encouraging work culture that removes stigmas of a field that's traditionally dominated by males. And to attract a more diverse talent pool, we should focus on how organizations foster communal goals, which are particularly important to females in the workforce. Research also shows that company profits and share performance can be close to 50% higher when women are well represented at the top, because gender diversity, I think, as we all know, means different viewpoints, different ideas, and different market insights, which enable better problem solving, which ultimately leads to superior performance at the business unit level. Gender diverse workforces also possess wider industry knowledge, have access to more sources of information, and can more easily attract and retain talented women, bringing us all closer to true gender equity. Please join me to talk more about flexible work environments and how we can address this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, that was fantastic and great. If you would like to hear more about this, you're welcome to join room number 3. Last but not least, we have room number 4. And in this room, we're going to be talking about removing barriers to promotion. Monica, despite efforts to achieve equity in the workplace, professional women face barriers to becoming more recognized leaders. How can women overcome these artificial barriers, and how can we address the challenge?
Great question, Carla, and thanks for asking. To start, and you've heard part of this already, but women make up the majority of the workforce in college graduates in the US. With these statistics in mind, you would think that women would have no issues landing high-level leadership roles. However, that is not the case. In fact, the top 3,000 companies in the US, only 167 females are CEOs are females. That's less than 6%. Women make up about 21% of the C-suite positions across America. When you look at women of color, that percentage drops to 4%. Yet the problem of women landing leadership roles persists across the world. Although women represent 58% of all graduates in social science, law, and business globally, they still are not well represented within business leadership. In a study of over 8,600 companies in 49 countries, women held only 16.9% of the available board seats in 2018. In 2020, analysis by Mercer with over 1,100 organizations across the world, women made up only 23% of the executive positions. These statistics prove that women are finding it challenging to land roles in leadership positions, no matter where they live or what industry they work in. And so how do we start to take down these barriers, step by step, acknowledging what they are, and then creating strategies to address them? Because again, the data doesn't lie. It's telling us a story. And it's our responsibility to figure out how do we deconstruct and eliminate these barriers that are leading to women not having their full potential within the workplace. So again, in room number 4, we'll be discussing how to remove barriers to promotion. And I'm here to tell you, there's one barrier that I haven't mentioned that has spent at least a nanosecond in every one of our minds as we have moved throughout the corporate ladder.
Hazel, and thank you so much to our fourth speaker. You heard it from them. Now it's your time to decide which breakout room you will be picking for today's conversation. So at this point in the webinar, I invite you to join the conversation. At the bottom of your screen, you should see an option to join a breakout room, and there will be listed as you have it in the screen. For room 1, again, the topic is succession planning. Room 2, deliberate retention policies. Room 3, we would have flexible work environments. And in room 4, we're going to have removing barriers to promotion. Please join one of these breakout sessions and let's get the conversation going. We're gonna give you about 5 minutes to join, and then these breakout sessions will be for 40 minutes. You're going to have your speaker and a moderator to help you in the room. So with that being said, I'll see you in about 40 minutes. We had a great discussion too in our breakout session.
It was great.
Yeah, awesome. Welcome back.
So we had major technology problems in room number 1. So I apologize to everybody who signed up for that room. And luckily I didn't do a great sales job. So there weren't too many of us who had to reassign, but apologies to everybody.
No worries, Jean. And I mean, thank you so much for your speech was great. And as women, we found a solution. We found a solution very quickly. We had others join different rooms. And but we appreciate you being here. And I think it was excellent. All of the topics were great, all 4 rooms. Okay, so at this point, I think we're all back to the general. I don't think we're missing anyone from any of the other breakout sessions. And I hope you had as much fun as we did in breakout room number 4. So what we're gonna do next is we're just gonna hear back, because I'm still curious to know what happened in all of the other breakout rooms. So I'm gonna ask each of the moderators in the rooms to unmute yourself and just share very briefly, the main takeaways from your session. And I know there is much more than can be said, but we're gonna have about 5 to 10 minutes at the end so we can all, share our comments. So let's get started with room number 1, succession planning. And in that room we have, well, Jen, right?
Sure. Yeah, as Kathy mentioned, we had the worst Jean, sorry, that was Jean. We had a great video of her, unfortunately, in the main room, but we couldn't get her into room 1. So we did have a really lovely group. We had a really great discussion about what it means to us and sort of what interests about us about this topic, and looking from different stages of career. But sadly, after a few minutes, we ended up breaking out and joining the other group. So maybe I'll pass it on to our moderator from room 2.
Sounds good. And so from room 2, we had Morgan, and the topic was deliberate retention policies.
Yes, and we had a great conversation. Janet provided a lot of information that was really rich with details and strategies. And so just a couple of takeaways that I had for retention is the company has to be intentional and then develop an intentional strategy. One that meets belongingness, career advancement, professional development and learning, flexibility and financial compensation. And we have to be deliberate. We can't be reactive. That was made very clear. Another was provide people with what they need, not only to do their work, but to support their mental health and their other needs. As women, we juggle multiple things. how are companies stepping up to help meet a lot of those needs, especially as we're trying to navigate a really tight job market, ending of a pandemic. And this includes not only the IT support, the financial compensation, and some of those, workload, but it also includes flexibility with schedules, the benefits package, and being attentive to your employee well-being. And another observation that I had throughout these conversations that we had was it's important to have a network. It's important to find the women in other organizations, like WST came up quite a bit. Where are those resources? How are we seeking out one another who are leading and building some of these strategies? Who's been there, who's done this, and how can we support one another as a team?
Excellent. Those are fantastic points. And thank you so much for such a great deliberate summary of your session. So from session number 3, we have flexible work environments. Alina.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, Karen Philbrick was shared a lot of data and information about flexible work. And flexible workplaces really is about getting the work done and less about when and where the work is getting done. And so some options could be like hybrid work, compressed work week, allowing people to trade or choose the shifts that they want to take. For example, say if you're a frontline worker and you can't actually work from home, but giving people flexibility to adjust their time, and having some freedom to take time off to deal with like personal and family matters. I think one thing that highlighted working from home is that there is an equity perspective as well. For example, if you're in an office type environment, obviously you might be able to have the opportunity to work from home. But if you're a frontline worker, again, you don't have that. You have to actually physically be there. So that's something to keep in mind about flexible work environments. We heard from a number of the attendees in the group that flexibility has given them the ability to care for like their aging parents and also to care for young children that might be in their lives. And to also to recognize some personal preference though. Some people really loved working from home. They like just being able to roll out of bed and like turn on your computer, but other people really need to be in that office. They need that physical environment. Maybe the setup is better. Maybe you don't have space in your current place for a really good like computer setup, or you need that interaction with your colleagues. And so having flexibility within your flexible work environment is and policy is also something to think about. In terms of some risk about being completely work from home is like maybe not having as much face time with senior levels of management. And so maybe if you are in the office, it might appear that you're working harder, but that might not actually be the case. And so one way to maybe go around that is to schedule like in-person activities or in-person meetings to encourage everyone to come into the office at least occasionally and to build those connections and having that face time with others.
You killed it, Alina. That was perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, no, building that connection is so important nowadays too. Well, room number 4, I was moderating that topic, and the topic we had was removing barriers to promotion. 3 of the main takeaways, there were so many others. I just picked 3 of those, is that just really think about what is the thing that you can do to remove barriers. Monica was the speaker in this session. She threw very fantastic questions at us that we're sure gonna be thinking about those for a little while after this session. And that is the intention. So what is that thing that you can do to remove the barriers? We recognize that the barriers are there. What is it that you can do as an individual? Now, another topic we talked about is how we can support each other. If you elevate women, then you elevate yourself. Think about it that way. We need to support other women and the work they do. Use your community. Maybe you can be part of an ERG group where you can point out the different barriers that are found for women and men also, but find that community, do your work, use your voice outside of your work environment, and that can also show some improvements to your own life and see how you can remove those barriers. And then very lastly is that there is this fear, how can we show to higher ups that we're capable of achieving so much more? And something that Monica shared with us is that it's very, very good to first have a plan and set clear goals to that plan and your expectations. And once you achieve this goal, sit down with your supervisor, with your higher ups, have that conversation, show them what is it that you want to accomplish, what you have done to accomplish your goals, and what is it that you want to become, so that the conversation can get started and be intentional. Very lastly, at the very end of our breakout session, we have that be intentional in what you do, and true to yourself. So that was part of what we had in session number 4. Thank you again, Monica, for that.
Thank you, Carla.
Thank you. Dean, I want to give you a few minutes if you want to share with us 1 or 2 takeaways from your session number 1 in succession planning. I want to give you the opportunity. I see that you share with us in the chat.
I did. So I just put in one of the things I was going to happen to mention, a woman named Carla Harris, who worked in the financial industry for many, many years and still does, I believe. Just incredibly inspirational and articulate about not just being a woman in the professional world and leadership, but she's also got some really, really good advice about how to sort of drive your own career and make it happen. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. The other thing is that just a little, you know, my background from my bio, my work background, but I have 2 kids. They're now teenagers, almost empty nested, but not quite. But I have had to do the balance thing for a while, and I think in my career, I definitely hit the point several times where I was weighing: do I want to take on more heavy roles, or do I want to stay where I am, where I'm happy, and you know, just under the political realm, where I don't have to deal with the messiness and can stay comfortable and have my home life. I can't say I was always successful at my balance, but you know, now that I'm looking at the other end of it, I feel like I probably should have taken some steps that I didn't, because I was worried it would be too much for myself.
Like what?
Well, I think while I was at the port for 10 years, I actually wore a number of different hats there, but several times, I think if I had pushed a little harder, I would have stepped into roles that were bigger for myself that I didn't in the end want. I consciously said to myself, I don't want that role, so I'm not going to push and I'm not going to go after it. And it was really because it was too political, or just, in my mind, too much work. Of course, I work my ass off already, but so that all was a myth in my head.
That reminds me of something I've heard about females. You all have probably heard it too. If there's a job description with 10 required,
Yeah.
You guys all got this, right? A man's got 3, he's like, I'm perfect. A woman's got 8, she's like, I don't know, I'm missing 2. I don't know if I should throw my hat in the ring. It's a cognitive framework that we need to adjust.
Yeah,
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, going back to my very initial pitch, which probably wasn't strong enough to get everybody in, but it worked out, is that you know, women need role models. I really thrived because I learned from other women along the way, my WTS connections and everybody. I've learned from them along the way, and that has really helped my career. So I'm big on making sure that women hire women, women lead women, and women follow women.
And if I just may add to that, Jean, I think it's very important that we just keep on doing what we do. We never know who's watching and who's following on in our steps. Maybe there is a young engineer that looks up to you and they see all the hard work that all of you do already. If you're in this room, it means that you want to better yourself and you're trying to find ways to get inspired and empowered, you know, that yourselves. So thank you so much again to everyone who has participated. We have about 4 minutes left. So I just want to open the room for any questions or comments that you have. You can use the chat. And if you're comfortable, you can unmute yourself and ask your questions.
You know, I love that comment, Jen, that you put in the chat about you wish that this topic was taught in grade school, right? About like in sex ed, so that girls know it's normal to feel less confident. And I wish even more so that we were able to like build each other's confidence somehow, right? So that we don't feel that way, because Karen is so right. If I meet 8 out of 10, I'm like, no, I'm not gonna go for it, because they're gonna immediately know what 2 I don't meet, right? Which isn't necessarily the case at all. And many of the male counterparts are like, I'm not worried about that. They go in so confident, meeting, like Karen said, maybe a third of what they're asking, and they're like, I got this in the bag, no worries here. So I just think, you know, I don't know if we could teach ourselves to be that way, which I know easier said than done, but.
Well, the other thing, if I can add to that too, and that Karen's right, that quote's kind of been around long, you know, whether it's the example she gave or whether it's, you know, I've heard the 80-20, you know, where women's got, you know, we have 80% of what's needed, men have 20 or 30, right? Just think about that way. And then I got this, I go. But, you know, one of the differences, and I'd be curious, Karen and others, to see what you think, that happens is that network though around the guy, around the man, when they go after that new role and they've got those soft spots or gap in experience and expertise, they just have this natural network around them though that makes sure that they're successful. And whether that's created because they're on the golf course together, right, or they're playing, you know, poker, whatever it is, you know, that men are a little different. They're wired a little different than we are. And there's some men on the call. Maybe they can. I mean, on the environment, maybe they can weigh in. Sorry, but I think that goes with it hand in hand. Not just that, you know, because we could be 120% capable, but if we have folks, well, I'm not letting Karen know about that secret door or whatever. If we don't have anyone letting us know where the stuff is buried and where the booby traps are, they just let us go walk wide off the cliff. And so that's the difference. That's one. There's many differences, I think, in some of this. Yeah.
That is important, Janet. And I think you're really, really speaking to the issue of mentorship versus being a champion, making sure that person's got a chance in the room. It's all so critically important. And I think that we have less of an opportunity to make errors without there being really negative consequences. So this is something very minor, but something as females in a male-dominated industry, I think we need to be very mindful of our presence, the things we say, how we carry ourselves, how we contribute. I would say that is across the genders, doesn't matter. It's just part of being a professional. But even the small things I teach some of the students that I have coming up under me is 1 alcoholic beverage should be your policy, period, in any work-related event, hands down. You don't want to slip up or compromise your reputation in any way, shape, or form, because that could overshadow the objective success that you are experiencing within the workforce. And so just being mindful of all those little tenets, the like you're discussing, Janet, that's so important, making sure we watch out for each other, making sure we are representing those who might not be at the table when discussions are happening. All super important.
And not hanging out at the bar. It's ladies, it's a double standard. We can't hang out at the bar all night like the men do either, right?
Drinking fizzy water.
Well, I think we have time for one more question. So Carrie, I see that you have a question.
Yeah, so thanks for everyone's time today. And this is definitely probably a loaded question that we don't have time to address fully today. But I think we talk about flexible work environments that are so necessary for a lot of women who are juggling, households and potentially children, and the balance of that flexibility with career growth. So if you're working, like in my case, I'm working 32 hours a week. Can I still have that career growth that I see, the people next to me that are working 40 hours a week? And that type of issue. So I'd love to hear success stories from that.
Yes. Absolutely. I don't know if we have anyone on, Carla, that can say that they actually did that, but I see that in my environment all the time. And some of the women that are working even less than the 32 hours and that are brilliant, we can't get enough of them, right? So it's a matter of, so they've made the impact, there's visibility through that network and opportunities, which is what's flexible, right? And depending on your environment, whether it's consultancy, project management, whatever that background is, I'm seeing more and more, particularly at this time, where that flexibility exists with our clients and our delivery models. And it's not like it used to be where you had to do a hard, fast rule of coming in the office Monday through Friday, 80 hours a week, right? Or 60 hours a week. Those opportunities right now are more available than ever. And I don't think they sacrificed at all opportunities to get ahead. And to me, it's more about being qualitative in what you're doing and doing it well. And with your voice, when you are present, when your voice is there, it's meaningful and impactful. And that's where it goes to, gosh, can we get Carrie more engaged? Well, she only has 32 hours. How do we spread it? And that's where we want to be.
I really admire women who can keep the boundary up for the 32 hours, and most of them aren't that successful. They end up working 40 hours a week and only getting paid 32, which makes me super sad. But yeah, so I'd like to know how you do it.
It depends on the week, and I often don't.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much again, Carrie, for your question. And I would love to keep the conversation going. So I just want to remind you that a recording of the session and all of the breakout sessions will be found in the ITE website. So you're welcome to go and watch that. I just want to again thank everyone, our partnership with ITS America. Thank you so much for making this happen, to our amazing speakers. Thank you once again. Thank you so much. Well, and that is all we have for today. And I hope I can see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a great day.
Thank you very much. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.